Would you hire Brian Kelly? Just ask yourself that question. Now, you probably have the reaction, absolutely not. I think Brian Kelly and James Franklin have a lot in common. They didn't go to their most recent programs, but they were, of course, fired from. And I know there's a bunch of stuff working itself out with Brian Kelly and LSU and all that. Like, oh, okay, let's just look past that. That's not the interesting part of this conversation to me. That's just side drama. If you were a program looking to rebuild your image, to stabilize, would you hire one of these guys? Because if I were a certain program, a certain type of program, I should say, I'm not thinking one in particular, then yeah, I would. I'd look at both. I think James Franklin has a better chance to succeed, just kind of the vibe that I get. I think Brian Kelly's nature of being a little standoffish, a little combative, a little rugged, a little stiff, and other adjectives that fit the description and picture that I'm painting here, I think that could rub some fan bases and donor classes the wrong way. And if you don't have those folks on board at a lot of places, and dare I say most, that matters a whole heck of a lot. So I was thinking about this because all this Brian Kelly drama has been unfolding with his contract, and lawyers will figure it out and whatever. Billable hours forever and always, undefeated. I think that if you were a program like what I heard could be possible perhaps is Michigan State, if Jonathan Smith were to not work out and it's not going very well, they play Penn State this week in a battle of winless Big Ten teams. That's a crazy thing to say. Not where I thought either program would be at this point in the season. However, that's where we're at. If I'm a program like Michigan State looking to reestablish the floor, I'd take James Franklin, but if he said no, I'd see if Brian Kelly's interested. It's not as if his track record, if you took away the other stuff, if you felt like that wouldn't be a problem, or if you felt like he was improving in those particular areas, Brian Kelly's biggest sin at LSU was not hiring correctly. At first, he couldn't get a defensive coordinator. Then he made the wrong move after Mike Denbrock went back to Notre Dame. So I don't remember the exact career trajectory there, but when he left LSU, then the offensive coordinator wasn't the right move. But let's not pretend like LSU was awful, uninteresting, not capable. You think Michigan State right now, if Brian Kelly, if you were to give him a 5-year contract, and over the course of those 5 years, Michigan State, I told you right now, you were going to win, or UCLA, or Virginia Tech. Penn State is not the place, not the place that Brian Kelly would go. But for those jobs that I just named, Arkansas, would you sign up for the next 4 years, and then you could fire Brian Kelly if you'd like, for a 4-win season, a 7-win season, an 8-win season, and then a 5-win season? Would you do that? Some places might not. Maybe he'd be able to do even better than that. Remember, in his first year at LSU, he got the Tigers. There were still divisions then, but he got them to the SEC championship game. Pretty sure there were still divisions then. Time is a weird social construct and such. Anyway, if you just look at the track record, though, at Cincinnati, at Notre Dame, at LSU, I don't have any reason to believe that Brian Kelly wouldn't go somewhere and be able to win if he's got the necessary resources. I doubt that he'd be able to win at the level that should lead him to be Florida's next head coach. And I have the same reservations about James Franklin. But for programs that have bottomed out, I mean, you could even think about, this seems like a crazy fit, but Oregon State, they're looking at other candidates like Nick Rolovich, maybe former Washington State and Hawaii head coach, or Paul Chryst, former Wisconsin head coach. And those names make plenty of sense. But if you're thinking about the jobs that are open across college football, that's what I see Brian Kelly and James Franklin as. I would take Franklin over Brian Kelly because I think Franklin was closer to realizing the potential of his program there more recently than Brian Kelly was. But do I think either one has a floor so low they'd go somewhere and just completely flop? Again, it's not for a program that has super high aspirations. So if you view your team looking for a new head coach as one that should be able to compete for a conference championship year in and year out instead of once every 4 years, then no, Brian Kelly or James Franklin is not for you. But if you're just trying to have a transitional coach of sorts, talk about that word with quarterbacks a lot. If you're trying to do that with a coach, I think they could work. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I am crazy. Again, for the big time jobs, nope, absolutely not. If Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, no, Brian Kelly should not be the head coach for the Rebels. But at Virginia Tech, is that wild? Is that crazy? At Michigan State, you tell me. You tell me. So, speaking of the ACC, Clemson goes to Louisville this week. And I'll tell you right now, this is going to be one of my best bets. I will talk about those later on the show. But Clemson goes to Louisville this week. Cardinals still have a shot to go to the ACC championship game thanks to their head-to-head win over Miami. But the home loss as an 18.5-point favorite, which was always a weird, crazy, wild line last week against Cal, I tell you what, it's a playoff shakeup, and it's helping Miami because the Hurricanes, as I discussed earlier this week, have a real shot now to be an at-large college football playoff team. Will they get there? Well, they'd have to survive NC State. Anytime Miami's a double-digit favorite, yeah, you can put them on upset alert. That's completely fair. Clemson traveling to Louisville this week. This will be the first best bet that I explain, and here's my reasoning. Louisville minus 2.5. At home again, in a desperation spot with regards to their ACC championship and therefore very slim but not technically impossible playoff hopes. After getting embarrassed at home last week, losing a heartbreaker. Look, they got emotionally drained. When you go to overtime, that happens. Maybe they've got nothing in the tank, and Clemson's playing with too much house money. But I think Clemson only being a 2.5-point underdog is a dramatic underreaction to the teams Clemson has beaten. Every time they've played a just good team in the ACC, they haven't won. Duke beat them, SMU beat them, but, they got Florida State and North Carolina. And I'm supposed to believe that they fixed themselves? No, I don't think so. I think Louisville wins. I think Louisville covers the 2.5. I will go 34-23. I think the Cardinals figure it out. Jeff Brom in a bounce-back spot there. Notre Dame goes to Pitt. I thought about this one earlier in the week, and I don't love the comments that you heard from, or maybe you haven't, from Pitt head coach Pat Narduzzi saying, it doesn't matter if we lose this game big. It's a terrible message to send to literally everyone. Tell me why Pitt couldn't be an at-large college football playoff team. If the tiebreakers were to go in such a way that they don't make the ACC title game, if they beat Notre Dame and they beat Miami later this year and they're 10-2, tell me why they couldn't be an at-large bid to the playoffs. So I think that's the wrong way to go. So the natural gut reaction is to go with, that means Notre Dame's going to go in there and absolutely crush them. But Mason Heinschel is playing really good football. Notre Dame's pass defense up and down this year. I think this is one of those spots where I'm just going against the grain. It's not one of my best bets because I like Notre Dame a lot, and I'm a big CJ Carr fan, and I love watching Jeremiah Love play football. I'll take Notre Dame to win, but Pitt to hang around. 31-27. I think there are plenty of points between two good quarterbacks.